So Oliver is 15, and I'm taking this from his website here. He is 15 years of age and he's autistic. He was diagnosed with autism in August 2016. What he's done is he's set up a business called Oliver Jude Clothing, and he's got some funky little t-shirts on there, which he is selling. And Oliver's question to me was around how he can raise investment for his business, because obviously being 15, he's too young to get loans, too young to get traditional investments, etc. And I think he's also applied for some grants which he's not been able to get either. So he's come to me to ask if I've got any ideas for him. Yes, I have, Oliver, but I also I thought we could use the theme of this story to have a bit of a general chat as well about people who often are looking for investment in a business which is possibly not necessary. That was one of the things I was thinking about when I was preparing for this, and also just some general comments and thoughts on young entrepreneurs. What ideas youngsters should be pursuing, and some thoughts for parents who've got kids with an entrepreneurial stripe in them as well. So, Oliver, we will certainly get to the investment bit in this in due course. But some of the other things I just wanted to talk about as well. Anyone who knows my story, or even knows parts of my story, knows that I started my entrepreneurial journey very early in life, as did a lot of youngsters, I think the first thing I ever remember doing was selling food from the school tuck shop at a more expensive price than our school tuck shop was selling it for, simply because I went to a school where the tuck shop was about that big and the line was about that big, so nobody actually wanted to wait in the queue. So I used to run to the front of the queue, buy some pasties, buy some chocolate, and go and sell it for twice the going rate up in my classrooms. I tried other things along the way, and the reason I tell the story is because I think it's as a youngster, you think you've found your path. You think you definitely know what you want to do. I look back to some of the things I wanted to do, and I wanted to be a famous magician. I wanted to have a telecoms business. I wanted to have an IT business. I wanted to do all these things, and I didn't particularly know why I wanted to do them, or have any logical reason for thinking them. But you're young and you want to try everything. And I think that is that's a very important thing, that a lot of people come to me and say, look, I want to start a business, but I don't know what to do, and self-aware. And sorry, by the way, I'm so crap at these technical things. I did put my phone on do not disturb, but somebody's called in then, so you have to excuse that. But what was I saying? I think it's very important for people to be self-aware. When people ask me what business I think they should start, for me it really isn't a question that I can answer, because what is good for one person certainly isn't good for somebody else. What are your skill sets? What are your interests? What's your financial backing? What's your passion? As youngsters who are going out there to start their entrepreneurial life, then my advice to anyone is to really try as many things as possible. Obviously in the confines of not making mistakes or investments that are going to jeopardize your future or have potentially catastrophic impacts on other things. But I think when you're young, you've got plenty of time ahead of you to make mistakes, to rebuild once you've fallen down. And again, anyone who knows my backstory, I had a very successful, being 22, 23, 24, 25, and then around the age of 27, I went spectacularly bankrupt. Thought the world was over, and I kind of started to rebuild. But I mean, what I realised looking back is that even at 27, I've still got my whole life ahead of me. I'm 38 now. I've still got, really got my whole life ahead of me. And when you're 15, 16, 17, you're young, you're hungry, and I probably sound like a boring parent, saying this to a 15-year-old. But take it from me, I once was you. If whoever you are that's listening to this, and we always want everything tomorrow, but I think don't rush. Don't rush into anything. Don't worry about how long things are going to take, because anything successful takes time, takes patience, takes building. So. But again, on the same theme, again, young people, when they're looking for a job. I think another important consideration is, if you're just taking a job as a youngster to try and earn money when you're 14, 15, 16, 17, and to a degree, at any point in your later life as well, there's only two reasons. There's only two reasons to work anywhere or to have a job. One is to earn money, obviously, and the other is to gain experience. And I think if you're someone who's got a vague idea of what you want to do in the future, or if you know that you want to be entrepreneurial or work in business, etc., when you're looking to get a job, don't always necessarily go for the one with where the pounds and pence might be a little bit higher, because again, when you're young, realistically all the wages are probably going to be the same. I think it's much more important if you can go and work, maybe even work for free underneath somebody who you can be an apprentice for, or someone that you can learn from, because whether or not you earn 5, 6, 7 quid, 8 quid an hour, whatever you earn as a teenager today, or if you can actually learn from someone with bags and bags of experience behind them, you may feel in the short term that you've given up a few quid, but the information, the experience, etc., that these people can impart on you is going to be worth its weight in gold, and much more important than earning an extra 10, 20, 30 quid here and there. I think the final thing I'd say, and this is for anyone starting a business, never mind just a young person, but set realistic goals. And again, I'm very much guilty of this in my younger days. But when you set goals, it's so it's so important to have a goal that's correctly set, and to have an incorrect goal is as bad, if not potentially worse, than having no goal at all. And what I mean by that is, look, if you're going to set a goal, it needs to be it needs to be specific. It needs to be a stretch so you can achieve it. So you've got something to strive to achieve, and something big to look forward to. But it also needs to be built within some degrees of realism. So again, what I mean by that is if you're going to say, oh, I want to be a billionaire, and again, if you're 15 years old and you want to say, oh, I want to be a billionaire, and well, if you've never made 100 million, if you've never made a million, you've probably never made 100 grand, you've probably never made 10 grand, and if you haven't got a plan to do it, then you're just wrapping yourself in delusion, and if you haven't got a realistic goal, you then can't set a clear path of how you're going to achieve it. So goal setting, and look, we're not going to go into deep talk on goal setting here. We'll save that for another blog, another video, some other time. But following your passion, trying different things, working for the right person who's going to give you experience as well as money, or potentially experience instead of money, because again, when you're in the formative years of your career, sapping up the right information and the right mentorship from the right person is going to pay mega dividends in the future, and is going to be much more important than the money in the short term. So that's what I'll be saying as a kid, and I think also as a parent to to anyone, to any child who's got an entrepreneurial streak. I think for me one of the most important parts of encouragement is not to be shooting down youngsters' ideas as insane or unachievable bad ideas or things that might not work. And I mean, if we look at how much the world changes, you go back to 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was absolutely inconceivable to think of an 8-year-old child making slime on YouTube, posting videos of slime, or posting videos of cutting up boxes, or recording their Fortnite sessions, or whatever it may be. But these kids are now doing that with their own fan base and making $1 grand, 10 grand, 100 grand, and as an older generation, these things are very almost inconceivable, I guess what I'm saying is, evolution with ideas that involve kids is going faster and faster and faster, and some of the biggest ideas come from the craziest initial thoughts. So I think as a parent, it's very important to foster that creativity and that entrepreneurial spirit, and not to be putting and not to be putting negative ideas or not knocking the kids back. So anyway, that's my preamble. I'm gonna talk about kids and thoughts and ideas. But Oliver, going specifically to you, mate. I've got a question. I don't know if you're still watching this, but if you are, one of my questions to you is going on your website. I don't actually understand if you're selling these T-shirts just as a business. If you're looking to sell them just as a business, or if there is some charitable angle there. Now, forgive me if it does say that. I've only blasted through your pages. I've not read them in great detail. But to me, it isn't clear if you're making these and selling them purely for commercial gain, and you're just talking about your autism as a backstory, or if you have got some kind of charitable angle here, whether that is all the money goes to charity, or some of the money goes to charity, or whatever else. So I mean, not that particularly changes the way I'm going to answer the rest of this, but I would be interested to know that. But my other question to you is, what do you actually want to raise this money to do? Because sorry, a message going through. What do you actually want to raise this money to do? Because again, so many times I speak to I speak to entrepreneurs or business owners who are looking to raise money, and they all think. Not all of them, but this the particular group of people that I remember and have in mind, always think that they need more money than they actually do. And there's multiple ways to, let's say, raise investment for your business, which doesn't necessarily have to come in the traditional sense of bank loans, of equity investment, etc. And a very common way of funding a business can actually be almost getting your customers to prepay in one way, shape, or form for the products that they're about to buy, and you're therefore using that to cash flow your business. And again, I mean, this idea works for multiple products, multiple price points, businesses in all kinds of sectors and during their life cycle. But sorry, Olivia, I can see you popping up on the screen at the time. I'll read that in a second. But when I look at your T-shirts, and for me, it would be very easy to get people to order these T-shirts and buy them, before you've actually had to create the stock, before you've actually had to have serious capital expenditure. and again, you know, this could be done in multiple ways. I mean, there's many crowdfunding sites for this kind of idea out there at the moment. You know, businesses like GoFundMe, Kickstarter, etc. You know, these sites, their whole business model is predicated on being able to on people trying to raise money to create their idea, you know, before they've actually got things in place. I mean, people have done all kinds of products from fashion labels like yourself through to through to musicians who want to record an album, but they effectively pre-sell the album to people before it's recorded. There's been people who've invented funky watches, but they haven't got the money to actually go to the factory and get it made. You know, they've just got all the drawings and the plans on paper, so they can sell the idea of these watches to a customer base, and then collect that money in, and then use that money to actually go and make the product. So when I saw your website, that was one of the first things that jumped to me. To, you know, do you really actually need any money now? And and it's always easy to say, look, I need money because I need to spend it on this. I need to spend it on the other. But I can tell you myself from personal experience. You know, a lot of times, you know, I've been involved in a business where we haven't struggled for having cash in the bank. You know, we've had decent capital, we've had a decent float. You know, it almost makes me lazy and kills my creativity. Whereas, you know, some of my most creative fundraising times has been when my back's up against a wall. There's no money in the bank. You know, the walls are at the door, or you know, I've wanted to get an idea going, and you know, I have to think creatively about how can I go out there and raise money in other more unusual methods. Just excuse me for a second, Oliver, because I know you've sent me a message, and I just want to try and read this on the screen. I want to try and read this on the screen now, so I can answer the question. So you were saying, so the main idea on the business was to raise awareness about positivity, using my story as a key to describe how I got to where I am today and why I'm doing it. Okay, fine, that's cool. So what we're saying therefore is that none of the money from these t-shirts is going to autism. Again, listen, I'm chucking my ideas out here now, and this is me off the top of my head, and me the way that maybe I do things. So you know, they're not necessarily correct, and they may not suit you. But my advice on that would be that I think a portion of the money that you get from your product has to go into helping autism, you know, whether it's autism or mental health awareness, you know, something on those themes, something along that line, in general. I think you know, you could certainly put your prices up to do that. You know, I'm not saying you want to be eroding your margin, because I know you've got t-shirts that are selling for 10 quid. Again, I'm talking very generally here. I don't know what these cost to make. I don't know how many you have to buy at any one time, etc. But I think you know, you've started the business off the back of your story, and that's obviously a very very commendable thing. But I think, for me, for it to have longevity and legs, I think you know, as well as creating the business for yourself, it would be great if you're giving something back to the autism community, you know, to charity, etc. in general. Sorry. So, and I think that would also make it much easier for you to gather support from other people. You know, whether that is you know, people you can collaborate on. So people you can collaborate with, you know, celebrities who might be able to endorse you or help promote your product, and again, I guess also just getting people to buy because of that feel good factor, that, you know, that they're not just buying a t-shirt that they want, but they're also helping a good cause. So when it comes to, I guess, when it comes to, celebrity endorsements, collaborations, etc. Whether it's on this or whether it's anybody who's got a product that they want to try and put out in front of celebs. Or influencers, I guess, as we call them today. One of the questions I always get asked is how do you do it? There's no quick fix here. There's no magic trick. It really is very much a case of knocking on doors, asking people. And asking people for their support, and like any aspect of sales, it's very much a numbers game. You're young, you've got plenty of time on your hands, and what you can be doing is messaging, as many influencers as possible, asking them to come in on your journey with you. Now, I think you're going to have a very clear plan of what you want to do with them. I don't, when you're going to people who are busy, time poor individuals, whether that's influencers, celebs, or anyone else, it's very important that you make their decision to help you as easy as possible. So I think you need to be very clear about what you're going to go and ask these people for. Are you asking them to wear one of your T-shirts? Or are you asking them to collaborate with you? To maybe for them to maybe make a T-shirt? Maybe there's an influencer who's got their own charitable interests who might be able to align themselves with you, and there could be some kind of joint venture to do here. Again, when you're setting your sights on influencers and partnerships, etc., it's really important, again, to be realistic on that. There's no point messaging Ariana Grande and Britney Spears, because you're not going to get a response, and if you do, I'd be very surprised if it's the one you were looking for. So in the early days, set your sights more realistic. People with 10,000 followers, 15, 20, 25,000 followers and up, and these will be people who will be much more receptive to helping. But again, you're in a space which is very topical at the moment. Anything mental health related is so topical, and so many influencers are either supporting that space or trying to support that space, that I think it would be very easy for you to start to attract the support from the right people. Once you've got one on board, it's very easy for that to snowball. One becomes two, becomes three, becomes four. I mean, before I started this feed, I actually went on your Instagram page, and I saw that you followed Dawn. That Dawn Ward follows you, or that that you've sent her a T-shirt or something along those lines. And you guys have got some kind of interaction together. Now, Dawn's a very good friend of mine, and she is super generous, supportive, and helpful to so many different charities. And I know for sure that if you haven't already, if you asked her to do something for you, whether that was to wear one of your T-shirts or an Instagram shout out to push people in the direction of your site, etc., I know 100% she would love to support you. So you can message her after this, and if you haven't already worked with her, message her and tell her that Matt Haycox is telling you to do this. But I'm sure, in all seriousness, I'm sure she would love to help. I'm just reading your message here. So my future plan was to give back to the community and create events that bring the autistic community together and create fun nights that relieve pressures for parents that are struggling, which can network with other parents to gain advice and help each other. All right, buddy, cool. So there's that very clear longer term charitable angle, but I think it's important that you start to get that message across to people now, so that when people are buying the T-shirts, they're not just buying the T-shirt, they're buying into the dream, into the charitable support, etc. So I think make that clearer. So yeah, I mean, really, that's it for me. I know you messaged me asking me for how you can raise some money, but like I say, I'm just not convinced you actually need to raise any money, or that you need to raise investment for, I think you can raise the money by pre-funding the sales of the t-shirts themselves. So like I say, whether you're doing that, I don't know the quantities that you need to order these things in, but whether or not you need to to buy 1 or 10 or 100 or whatever it is, if you get a couple of different t-shirts together that you can go and pre-sell, whether you're pre-selling them through your own site or going and using something like like a GoFundMe page or a Kickstarter page or something like that. Now, for anyone who is interested in crowdfunding in any way, shape or form, whether that's reward-based crowdfunding like we've just discussed, or equity or debt raising, I've written a book which is The Funding Guru's Guide to Crowdfunding, which has got everything in there you need to know about how to create the perfect crowdfunding campaign and then raise your money. Anyone who wants a free copy of that book, please email me, matt@fundingguru.com, DM me on here, drop me a message on Instagram, YouTube, whatever. Send me your details. It's a PDF copy. It's 70 or 80 pages. There's all kinds of good advice in there, which you'll find very important. But the main thing when it comes to raising the money from crowdfunding, it's very much the answer for how you grow your business in general, which is that having a big audience is absolutely imperative. So my immediate advice to you is to not worry so much about raising external investment, and to concentrate more on growing your audience, growing your following, working on some collaborations, partnerships, or support from influencers, and celebs of varying degrees of publicity. And if you start to pre-sell some of those t-shirts at the right price, that is going to create the money that you need to that is effectively going to create the investment for you for the next batch and the next batch. Like I said, I don't know your numbers, but if you as well, you can put those prices up for a tenner. I'm sure you can. If you sell a t-shirt, let's just say for argument's sake, these cost you £3 to make and deliver, and you're selling them for a tenner at the minute. Put your prices up to £20. You've got a great story. You've got funky t-shirts, and of that £20, let's say a fiver of it is gonna go to an autism charity or into your autism charity pot, or however you're going to work it. You've got 12 quid worth of profit there. Let's say you go and pre-fund the 100 t-shirt sales. Okay, you've got 100 t-shirt sales with 12 quid worth of profit. You've gone and made yourself 1,200 quid worth of profit there. That is effectively the same, an alternative way to you raising £1,000 worth of investment up front and using that to go and buy the t-shirts and then go and sell them piecemeal. I'm really convinced that if you do the right collaborations, the right partnerships, and the right promotion, you can get yourself into a state where you can pre-sell and pre-fund, couple hundred t-shirts, without too much difficulty. And then you've sold your t-shirts, you've made some profit, you've put some money into the autism pot, and you've created that profit to then go and reinvest again in round two. So, like I said, I know that probably wasn't the answers you were expecting from me, but I hope you find it useful in some way. And look, there's always more than one way to skin a cat. And for me, in your position, I think don't worry about going and finding that investment tomorrow. Create the money you need by putting the effort in to selling more t-shirts and selling them up front. But I'm going to go. I've got to drink more water before I pass out. Like I said, I hope you find that useful. I'm convinced that some of those strategies will work. Message as soon as you put the phone down. As soon as I put this phone down, message Dawn. tell her you've been listening to my videos. I'm sure she'll help you. And once you've got one celeb, you know, other people will very much follow off the back of that. But you know, you've got plenty of time in your day. Just DM influencer after influencer, and I'm sure that some of these will start to help you. And you know, before you know it, one t-shirt sale becomes 10, becomes 100, and it will snowball. So I hope you find that useful, buddy. For anybody else who's been watching, thank you very much for watching. You know, whilst we were obviously specifically talking to Oliver and his t-shirt business, you know, so many of the ideas we were talking about today, and so many ideas in general, can be applied to all kinds of businesses, you know, in all kinds of sectors, you know, in all kinds of stages of their life. You know, it's just a matter of being creative. And like I say, you know, some of the most creative times in my career have been the times that I've had the least amount of money. And you know, and I've not been able to afford to be lazy. I've had to be creative. I've had to think outside the box. But thanks for your support, everybody. And please, if you like this, share it, comment, tag a friend. I'm trying to make these live streams a much bigger part of what I do now. And if you've got any questions that you want answering for your business, anything that you're particularly struggling with, then please message me. Like I say, comment here, DM me, and I'll try and answer the questions that you guys want to know as well. Thanks a lot for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.